All right, we're back. This is chapter 21, and it should fit into one video. Gregor was almost within striking distance of one of the rats when something caused Eris to veer straight upward. A third rat, with an unusual gold coat, had bolted into the cone right beneath them. That makes 3 to fight, Gregor thought as Eris shot up and off to the side. But as the ground came back into view, he could see the gold rat, killing one of the others. Then it spun around to face the other gray rat. Gregor shook his head slightly to clear it. What was going on here? Don't be an idiot, Goldshard. He's come to kill the Bane, snarled the gray rat. I would rather have the Bane dead than have it trust you, the gold rat hissed back. The rat's voice was slightly higher pitched, like twitch tips, and Gregor felt certain it was female. So Gregor thinks the gold rat is a girl. All you guarantee is your own death. The gray rat crouched down to lunge. Someone will die, Snare. The question is who, said Goldshard. As Snare sprang toward her, she went into action. Gregor had never seen a full-scale rat fight before. Ripred had killed 2 rats in a tunnel en route to rescuing his dad, but they hadn't had time to fight back. Then the big scarred rat had taken on some of King Gorger's soldiers. But Gregor hadn't witnessed it because he was busy leaping to what he had thought would be his death. Now he had a bird's eye view. So a bird's eye view is like from above, like a bird would see it. When Goldshard had killed the first time, she'd had the element of surprise on her side. This time, her opponent was on the offensive, and Snare, who Gregor was pretty sure was a male, was a lot bigger than she was. The combat was vicious. The rats attacked each other in violent bursts. They'd circle for a minute, looking for an opening. Then one of them would leap, and there would be a blur of teeth and claws. As they pulled apart to circle again, both would have new wounds. Snare lost an eye. Goldshard's ear dangled from a shred of fur. You could see the bone in Snare's shoulder. Goldshard's left front paw was snapped in 2. Finally, the gold rat came in on her opponent's blind side and locked her fangs on his neck. In the final throes of death, Snare got his hind feet between their bodies and slashed open the length of Goldshard's belly. She lost her grip, staggered back, and collapsed. The rats lay a few feet apart, eyes locked in hate, bodies helpless. With a terrible gurgling sound, Snare suffocated in his own blood. Goldshard turned her gaze to Gregor. The look was pleading, and he was sure she wanted to say something to him. Don't, she whispered. But before she could finish, her eyes glazed over, and she stopped moving. What just happened? Gregor blurted out. I do not know, said Eris. Are they dead? Asked Gregor. Quite dead, all 3 of them, the bat replied. He coasted down to the ground, avoiding the pools of blood that were spreading out from the rats' bodies. Do you know who they are? Asked Gregor. Did you recognize their names? Goldshard? Snare? Not Goldshard, said Eris. I have heard of Snare. He was one of Gorger's generals. He was out fighting the war when Gorger fell. He must have joined with the Bane then. It would make sense. Whoever is close to the Bane would have much power when he becomes king, said Eris. Gregor hadn't spent much time thinking about the rat's political struggles, but now that he did, something seemed strange. So why hasn't the Bane become king yet? You'd think a rat as big and strong as he is would have taken over by now, said Gregor. What's he waiting for? Even the Bane must gather an army around him, said Eris. He has his own enemies among the rats. Ripred, for instance. He wants the Bane dead. That was true. Part of Ripred's plan for his own rise to power included killing the Bane. Snare had wanted to keep the Bane alive, But Goldshard was willing to let Gregor kill it rather than let it trust Snare. There was something else about Goldshard, that last look she had given him, like she was begging him almost. What was it that the rat had wanted to say to him? Don't? Don't what? Hurt her? It was a little too late for that. Eris's head snapped around to a tunnel entrance. How many? Said Gregor. Just one, I think, said Eris. It is hard to tell. The path spirals. His chin... Sorry, guys. His chin jerked up again. This time Gregor did not have to ask. He had heard the scratching himself. The sound stopped. Nothing emerged from the tunnel. Suddenly, Gregor knew why. It's the Bane, he whispered to Eris. The bat gave a nod of agreement. It had to be. The other rats would simply attack, but the Bane knew it was being hunted. By a human. By an overlander. By the warrior. The words of the prophecy of Bane came back to Gregor. Hear it scratching down below, rat of long-forgotten snow, evil cloaked in coat of white. Will the warrior drain your light? Yes, he would. That was what the warrior had come to do. There was another faint scratch. It was in there, just a few feet away, waiting. The tunnel mouth was small, only about 5 feet high and 4 feet wide. There would be no flying in on Eris. The Bane must know that. It wanted to lure him in alone. Okay, then, he'd face it alone. Gregor slid the pack off his shoulders and onto the ground. He didn't want anything restricting his movements. He checked the switch on his flashlight. It was already on high beam. Gripping his sword, he began to move toward the tunnel. Eris's wing came up to stop him. You cannot fight him in there, Overlander. Well, he's not coming out, said Gregor. Wait then, said Eris. For what? Another bunch of rats to show up? Asked Gregor. Eris dropped his wing reluctantly. Look, I've got a feeling it was supposed to be this way anyway. Like I was supposed to do it alone, said Gregor. But you be ready, because after I kill it, we've got to get out of here fast, okay? I will be ready, said Eris. He extended his claw, and Gregor grasped it in his hand. Then Gregor turned to the tunnel. In the dozen paces it took him to reach the opening, he could feel himself slipping into rager mode. The heightened senses, the rush of adrenaline, the selective vision. Every molecule in his body was preparing to kill. He moved swiftly inside and almost immediately encountered the spiral Eris had mentioned. Another corkscrew-like path. With his bad hand tracking along the wall and his good one leading with his sword, he went around 1, 2, 3 full turns and burst out into a square chamber. It was trying to hide from him, the Bane. He caught a glimpse of white fur, a flash of pink tail, and a cave off to the side of the chamber. Gregor thought of Luxa, who would never be queen, of Twitch-Tip bleeding on the ground, of his dad crying on the phone, and of Boots. Sweet, trusting Boots. Heart-pounding, blind to everything except that patch of fur, he lunged toward the cave. He raised the hilt in the air, flipping the sword so it would come down, point first at an angle. His bad hand joined his good one, and with every ounce of strength he drove the blade toward the Bane. But just before the point he made contact, the creature made a sound that hit Gregor like a cannonball. Mama! That is the end of chapter 21.